Voters demanded independent redistricting. Prop 50 takes it away. It hands that power back to Sacramento politicians, consultants, and special interests. This was never about fairness. It's about control. That's their first turn into their roadmap to ruin. Vote no on Prop 50.
Independent redistricting was a promise to voters to take politics out of the process. Now with Prop 50, that promise is being broken, and they're using your tax dollars to do it. This isn't about fixing anything. It's about politicians taking control. Vote no on Prop 50 and drop your ballot in the mail today.
The politicians want their power back.
That's what they want to do, is take us backwards. This is why it is important for you to vote no on Proposition 50.
California voters established an independent commission led by citizens to stop rigged elections. Prop 50 cancels this historic reform, putting the politicians back in charge.
The Constitution does not start with the politicians, it starts with we the people.
Trust citizens, not politicians. No on 50.
Democracy. We got to protect it, and we got to go and fight for it.
Welcome back to American Zone. So, I'm going to be talking to you about Arnold Schwarzenegger, the former governor, the governator. He called out Proposition 50, exposed it for what it is. You see, he declared that Prop 50 is a scam, and it is. He said that voters should think twice about voting yes, because he believes it would give too much power to politicians in Sacramento, California. So we're going to be breaking down the vicious denouncement that was oh so well done by Arnold Schwarzenegger against Prop 50 and talk about what his opinions could mean for the final outcome of this special election.
You're the last Republican. Is really the last Republican from California, the last guy who got elected in this state.
Well, I mean, let me tell you something. We're talking here about saving democracy. What I suggest that the way we save democracy nationwide is to really have a proposal like, for instance, the Save Democracy Act. It's just an idea where we go and make Election Day a holiday, so that everyone has time to go out and go to the election.
Well, again, this is something Democrats are all for and Republicans are all against.
Here's the second point.
Okay.
Second point is you have to have fair redistricting, to have independent redistricting commission in each state all over the United States.
Yeah.
And
except they won't do it.
And number three, to have a voter ID, so that when you go and vote, people should know that you are that person.
Yes.
Those are all things that they have back in Europe.
Right.
So I come from Europe. I'm giving you just ideas, not that I created those ideas. Those are things that are happening in Europe and have happened for centuries.
Right.
So this is why I think that it is important that we do the same thing here. I think if we take those three things, there's something that the Republicans like, there's something that the Democrats like, get together and solve this problem. It's the same, it's no different than talking about energy or anything like that, where Democrats and Republicans can get together. You give something to the Republicans, you create more nuclear power. You give something to the Democrats, create more renewable power, and all of a sudden we have 80% of energy, of clean energy in America. This is the way we have to do it. We have to go talk to each other rather than hating each other. Talk to each other, because that's what the people want, and that's what the people need.
Now, Prop 50. Arnold Schwarzenegger was talking about it with Bill Maher on his show, and it completely was dismantled by the former governor. He completely exposed Prop 50, the scam that is taking place in the state of California. Governor Gavin Newsom isn't fooling anybody, especially not Mr. Schwarzenegger. You see, he believes that voters should vote no because Newsom wants to specifically strike down the Independent Redistricting Commission so that the Democrats can redraw the maps and give themselves an unfair advantage for a long time. I'll tell you how long in a little bit. Now, this is not something that former Governor Schwarzenegger supports, and he clearly is willing to put himself out there again and talk about it and expose the scam on Bill Maher's show. But even if Newsom is successful, Schwarzenegger believes this is going to backfire. And he made that very clear. I mean, the fact that Arnold brought up the homelessness crisis during this interview says a lot and does a lot to expose Newsom's poor job performance. He mentioned that Newsom looks really bad for spending hundreds of millions of dollars on a special election power grab instead of giving that money to homeless people who actually need it. And even then, the system that Governor Gavin Newsom, this is me talking now, not him, the system that Governor Newsom has built there, it's so corrupt that you can't even trust the money to get to the homeless people who actually might need the money. It just probably gets broken up amongst the leadership, and then finally when it trickles down, it's like, oh, we need a new office. For what reason do you need a new office for? How would you just take that $1 million and give it to actually people who need it? No. You see what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised at all if we were to dig really deep into that whole homeless crisis. Maybe we should even do like a dedicated bit about that here on the channel. What do you think? Should I do that? Should we do a whole bit about the homeless crisis in California, really dig into it in depth? Might be something to do, because I would not be surprised if you really dig into it that the money's not even getting to it. Why? You're constantly sending more money there and nothing's happening. Nothing's changing.
What's your view in terms of what should happen nationwide when it comes to redistricting?
Well, first of all, in California, it's a big mistake to go and to dismantle and to basically kind of get rid of the independent redistricting commission under the auspices of we got to have more power than the Republicans. And we got to fight Trump. Because, yes, they are fixing the elections in Texas. But that does not mean that California should fix the elections because of that. Two wrongs don't make a right. It's that simple. And whenever the politicians say that we're only doing this temporarily with the redistricting commission, with the independent one, there's no such thing with politicians and temporarily. Have you ever seen a tax that stopped? When they say this is just temporary, it is permanent. I am for the power of the people, not the parties, and therefore I say vote no on Proposition 50.
Because when I talked to Governor Newsom about this and about your conversation with him about this, he told me that he said to you, if we are not successful that there will be no more independent redistricting, the whole thing's over. He has no faith in President Trump in order to do fair elections if Republicans have all control, and he says that it is temporary. You don't buy what Governor Newsom's saying?
Of course not. Look, I've sat there in Sacramento. I've listened to the politicians for 7 years. They are not interested in giving any power to the people. The only interest that they have is to take power away from the people and grab it themselves. So this gives them a great opportunity by saying, oh, we have to fight Trump. Let's go and get rid of our democratic principles. Imagine, to fight for democracy and to get rid of your democratic principles. It doesn't make any sense. And plus, we have so many homeless people in California. And there they cannot do anything about it. But they're spending $200 million on a special election. I would rather give this money to the homeless people that really need it rather than to the politicians. Let's give the money to the people rather than the politicians. This is what this is all about. That's why I'm against Proposition 50. That's why I always will say nothing against Newsom. We don't have a fight over this at all.
Yeah, because you guys met. What was that like? When
it was a
met
wonderful
together?
meeting. He told me what he felt. I told him, I said, I totally get it. Because this is what you need to do to be the leader of the party. I totally get it, but I'm not a party person, I said. I'm a people's person.
Are you going to be campaigning anymore? What's your role? Are you going to be doing interviews, going around the state, doing rallies? What's your role in this campaign?
I have no plan. All I wanted to do really is to come out and to say to the people, hold it. Before you go and vote, you should know this is a scam. And vote no on Proposition 50.
So potentially hundreds of millions of dollars could be spent on this fight over Prop 50, with right now Governor Newsom largely being the face of yes in ads, and former Governor Schwarzenegger largely being the face.
Now, Gavin Newsom has largely been the face of Prop 50 for the yes voters. Now, we've seen Arnold position himself as the no face, so to speak, of the opposition against Prop 50. He's been in several campaign ads saying no for Prop 50. And he's like one of the few Republicans in California who's actually had any success in California. So it kind of means something, because people be like, oh, it's, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I like him, Now, most Republicans and conservatives at large agree with his opinion regarding Prop 50. The Democratic Party voters of California are so diehard and delusional that they're easily tricked by these types of special elections, and Newsom is lying to them. Look at this. It literally says on the ballot language, literally says, proposition to stop Trump's power grab. It basically allows the Democrats to do whatever they want with congressional maps until, here it is, I mentioned earlier, 2030. 2030. What? Whenever a California voter sees President Trump, the TDS syndrome just bing goes into overdrive and like, I gotta go to the ballot box and vote. And because the Democratic Party, I trust them. They know what they're doing. I can trust the Democratic Party with everything. It is so bad over in California. The TDS is up to like Chernobyl levels of bad. Now, when they go to the ballot box, oftentimes they're voting just whatever the initiative is. They'll just say yes because it's the Democratic Party. They don't even ask like, well, what is in it? What are we actually trying to do? Doesn't matter. Don't question it. Crazy. In this case, it's Proposition 50. The Democrats always are doing this. They're using Trump's face, basically say orange man bad, and rile up their voters, motivate them, because, due to the demographics in California, it's really probably going to work. A lot of people are going to, I imagine, vote yes, because it is such a stronghold. Like, they will, I'm sure there's some people even believe, like, Newsom doesn't lie. He's never lied. I was like, it is just so bad that, like, they're just hopeless. It doesn't change the fact that Prop 50 is a scam and very well could face legal challenges due to how unconstitutional it is. The Supreme Court could also deal an absolute death blow to his whole thing. It could wipe out whatever gains they make in Prop 50, assuming it gets passed. You see, the Supreme Court is talking about potentially gutting or striking it down entirely, the Voting Rights Act. And if that happens, that would be a big deal. Hugely big deal. Now, the Supreme Court justices, specifically the conservative ones, they see what's happening in California. If they see him really keep pushing so hard, they're not dumb. They see the news, they pay attention, they read things, they see what's going on, and they'll go, yeah, no. It very well could happen. Now, I saw a comment on one of our previous videos saying, like, oh, it might take years. Sure, it might take years, or it could be done in a couple of weeks. You see? And if it does happen, it would, for almost in a permanent way, shift the balance of power in Congress for, well, it's too strong of a word choice to say permanent, but at least for decades to come. Because right now, the Voting Rights Act has benefited the Democrats for decades. So at a bare minimum, at least it would swing the other way for at least a solid decade or two, I imagine. It's basically a battle of the governors. You got Schwarzenegger saying no, you got Gavin Newsom saying yes, and they're opposing each other, facing off on Prop 50. It's a big race because the Democrats have dominated the state with their proposals and special elections over the years, and the state has way more Democrats in their state. Way more. They have so many more Democrats in California, it is crazy. It's almost like a Republican is like a unicorn over there. You go, wow, there's a Republican. Even though I'm exaggerating, I know there's a lot of good Republicans in California, but the point is, it's overshadowed by the Democrats in California right now. But what do you think is going to happen? Do you think they're going to pull it off? Do you think they're going to fail? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Thank you so much for tuning in to American Zone. I'm Griffin, your host. Please do not forget.
Highest rate of poverty. 1/3 of Californians can't meet their basic needs. The highest unemployment they gave us. The highest taxes. The lowest income growth last year. The worst business climate in America.
And that was Steve Hilton back in April, launching his campaign for California governor. Hilton promising to make California golden again, as he stressed the importance of California, saying it means as much to America as America means to the world.
With more on the state of the race and the state of California, Steve Hilton here with us now in studio. Good to have you, sir.
Great to be here with you.
You were on with us back in April,
yes,
shortly before you announced your candidacy, and at the time you said you believe that Californians have come to the realization that it's time for change.
Yes.
What would you do to bring about change? What would that change look like?
Well, I think we've just got to be honest about where we are as a state. We've had 15 years now of one-party rule by the Democrats. And what's the result? We've got the rich in California are getting richer. They're fine. But regular working people in California are just getting completely hammered. The highest gas prices, the highest cost for everything, for housing, rent, water, insurance. It's all a nightmare. Running a small business. I was a small business owner. I started restaurants back in the day in London before I moved here with my wife and my sons in 2012 and became an American. And the pain and the struggle of just everyday life, that's what we've got to change. So my focus is very practical, positive things to get rid of the bloat in our government that is making everything so expensive, everything so complicated, impossible to build anything, to do anything, to run your business. And the outcome of that, very simple things. $3 gas, cut your electric bills, a home that you can afford. That's what my campaign is all about. Positive, practical things to make families' lives easier and better, and small business owners who are the lifeblood of our economy.
It seems like you've established what your lane is in this race, but how do you win a state that hasn't elected a Republican since 2006?
I know people say, how can a Republican win? And I understand that because it's been a long time, as you say. My first response is, with their record, with all these problems, how can a Democrat win? How can it be more of the same be the answer? But I think another thing to look at is there's a majority in California for change. Very consistently, the last 2 years or so, you've had 60%, 65% of people saying, we're on the wrong track, we need something different. And so my job is to be out there with a positive alternative. Then I think people really will take a look at that and say, yeah, we want I think we don't need to persuade people we need change. The question is, who can deliver the change? And my argument is, that's got to be a change of political leadership. You can't keep voting for the same thing and expect a different result.
Mm-hmm. So for Republicans, what separates you, Steve Hilton, from Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco?
So I've got the range of experience I think that we need. As I mentioned, I've been a small business owner. I've got most of my career has been in business, but actually I've worked in government as a reformer before moving here. I helped elect David Cameron, Prime Minister of the UK. I worked in 10 Downing Street, leading our reform program for our economic policies, education, healthcare, all those practical things. I've been there fighting the bureaucracy, trying to make change happen in government. And I'm not saying we did a perfect job, but I learned the lessons of that. And so I think I'm well prepared to go to Sacramento to take on the corruption and the insiders and really cut back on this government bloat that I think is at the heart of our problem. So I think it's the range of my experience.
Okay, the only thing on the ballot for November 4th is Prop 50. That's
Yes.
it. Yes or no? And you actually you have a lawsuit.
Yes.
Blocking Prop 50 and
Well, trying
to block 50 and saying it's illegal and that it's unconstitutional.
Yes.
Why?
Well, the first point is this is costing us a lot of money, $300 million. It is unconstitutional for a very simple reason. The Equal Protection Clause in the US Constitution and in our California Constitution is very clear. One person, one vote. That means that everyone's vote should have the same weight. In order to guarantee that, you need to know that the districts are roughly equal in population. That's why drawing the maps was always connected to the census every 10 years. They just drew these maps in a back room in Sacramento. They have no idea who lives where. Millions of people have left our state because of all the problems I've been talking about. But here in LA, whole neighborhoods burnt to the ground. They have no idea who lives where. These maps therefore cannot deliver that constitutional requirement. That's our legal argument. It's a very strong legal argument. In fact, Gavin Newsom knows it's so strong. That's why what they've been doing is trying to delay the lawsuit. And so in fact, the date we've asked for an expedited hearing, we're in the thick of that legal process now. The court date that we have right now is November the 6th, 2 days after the election.
Right.
So that's not exactly useful if you want to stop wasting this money.
Well, we see Prop 50 has a good chance of passing if you believe the polls. Senator Alex Padilla, Congresswoman AOC, even former President Obama coming out with ads, essentially saying this is about preserving democracy and, importantly, fighting back against President Trump. So, interestingly, they're not actually in many of these ads articulating what it is they're asking of voters.
Yes.
But the messaging seems to be working.
Well, they can't defend it because it's so obviously unfair. They are just taking away representation from millions of Californians. And so they have to focus on Trump and fighting Trump because that's all they've got. By the way, it's going to be the same next year in the election for governor. I'm telling you right now, they can't run on their record. They can't plausibly argue they're going to bring change to California, so that they're going to be you saw it from Katie Porter just now. I'm the one that's going to fight Trump. We don't need someone to fight Trump. What we need is someone who's going to fight for working people and small business in California. And this Prop 50 election, how does that help anyone? How does that help anyone with gas prices? How does it help cut your electric bills? How does it help the struggles of a family trying to make ends meet, or improve the school results in our public schools, which are the worst in the country? None of that is going to be affected positively by Prop 50. That's why it's such a massive waste of time and money.
So after the election, the presidential election, California spent $50 million to Trump-proof the state. 6 million of the residents here voted for Trump. And you have a slogan that says you're running on Let's Make California Golden Again. So there are Let's Make California Golden Again. And so on the flip side, is there something about California that is missing about the president that we don't know? Why are we in this lane right now?
So look, I just think that, well, first of all, that number you put out there, is when people are saying we pay all these taxes and yet everything's a disaster, the roads are a disaster, the schools are a disaster, homelessness gets worse, where's all our money going? There's your answer. I think in terms of President Trump, that's a national conversation. People have their own attitude. I think that you saw in the election last year, President Trump actually got more votes in California than any Republican candidate for a long time.
Is there any disagreement between you and Trump?
Well, I have a good relationship with the president, and I think it will be useful to have a governor who has a good relationship, not just with the president, but with the cabinet. I mean, half the cabinet are personal friends of mine. I know them from working alongside them at Fox News, for example, and my political work over the last few years. Important positions for us here in California. The Interior Secretary, Doug Burgum, who's, including amongst his responsibilities all our federal forests. We need better forest management. I can work with him on that. Sean Duffy, the Transportation Secretary, a very good friend of mine. We talk often. We've got things like high-speed rail to resolve, our freeways, our transport infrastructure. There's a lot that we can work together on, and I think it's going to be useful to have someone as governor who's got that attitude.
You became an American citizen in 2021.
21, yes.
Immigration, obviously a major issue in this country. The debate rages over President Trump and his immigration enforcement actions. By some estimates, there are north of 2 million undocumented immigrants in California, 2.3 million. If you become governor, do you maintain the sanctuary state policies or do you follow federal law?
So look, I think we've got to enforce the law generally. I mean, I was up in Sacramento earlier this week to make a point that the people in charge now seem to be very good at passing laws, not so good at enforcing them. And I think that applies right across the board. But on this question of immigration, I'm a legal immigrant. And actually not just here to America. My parents are Hungarian. They fled communism in Hungary, and I was born in England. So I'm pro-immigration, but it's got to be done legally. And we've had now 50 years or so where we've had this completely broken immigration system and law breaking on a massive scale. Everyone turns a blind eye. If you run a business in California, you are forced to break the law. This has got to change. And so I think the way I put it is, I'm the candidate of the legal immigrant community, for the legal immigrant community. When I'm on the road, and here, especially here in LA, I talk to legal immigrants all the time, and they are more angry about what's been going on with illegal immigration than anyone else. They say, we did it the right way, we worked hard, we waited in line. These people who just come across the border and they get EBT cards, you see them in the grocery store, and free cell phones and subsidized housing and all of this that we never got. They're very angry about it, and I think we just need a bit of fairness in the
Polling bears that out, as we saw in the last presidential election in states like Arizona.
Exactly.
Certainly.
And so I think that it's an argument. We've just got to tell the truth about these things and not pander to the political activists. I think common sense has to be the rule here.
Today would have been Charlie Kirk's 32nd birthday, and he was honored posthumously with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And as you know, people have been reflecting since his murder about that killing and what that brought about in the country. How can we move forward having conversations together?
Well, Charlie was a good friend of mine. He was there on day one for my campaign. We talked many times. He loved California, actually. A lot of these conservative commentators you hear them around the country, they say, I'll give up on California, just leave. He wasn't like that. He loved this state just as much as I do and wanted to see it get back on the right track. And his model of having those conversations is one that I've been following. I mean, actually, days after what happened, I was on the campus in Berkeley. I went to Berkeley campus to do an event just like he used to do. We talked about it, Charlie and I actually. We even talked about how we would do those events, what lessons he had for me. He obviously did that over the years, and this is a newer thing for me. And we had a very good conversation on Berkeley campus. Civil disagreement. I went there and I made the point that if we want to cut housing costs, big issue for the students, we've got to cut the climate regulations that are making housing so expensive. And I found it a very, very good, productive conversation.
The candidate, Steve Hilton, running for California governor. Exactly. Thanks for being with us. Hope to continue the
Wonderful
conversation.
To be with you.
Thank you.